Welcome to Expedition Networking, a special segment of the Networking RX podcast. I'm Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and your host for this program. For those of you who are familiar, on the Networking RX podcast, we share information and have conversations with experts, such as authors, researchers, and social scientists. And all of these programs are aimed at helping you learn how to become better at building professional relationships and understanding why they work. In this Expedition Networking segment, however, we're going to bring on successful entrepreneurs and unique professionals and explore their networking adventure and learn how they used relationships to create lasting success. You know, when I was in high school, there was a guy I went to high school with, and well, actually all the way up through junior high, he wanted to be a surgeon. That was his thing. He wanted to be a surgeon, did really well in school, and got further on into high school, and he got into a medical program that kind of fast-tracked it. He could go to 4 years of college, undergrad, and basically in 6 years he'd have a medical degree. And he went on and he became a surgeon. And I find that interesting because, hell, I was all over the board. Firefighter, police officer, teacher, coach, entrepreneur. I wanted to own a video store. And it just, I just wonder who's more normal, me or him. I'm thinking I'm more normal because all the people I know, very few people end up doing what they're doing. Great tie into our guest today, Mar-a-Lago. She's an award-winning jewelry designer. And she's the co-founder and former CEO of the global luxury brand Mar-a-Lago. There's a tie-in with her name. And now she's an accomplished business strategist. And she is a provocateur. You have to explain all that.
I like that word too.
Yeah. When you're growing up, did you want to be a high-end jewelry designer? Where'd this all come from?
No,
are you more like me?
I'm embarrassed to tell you, I wanted to be an actress.
Okay.
I grew up in an entertainment industry sort of family, and I wanted to kind of be an actress. And I think I was very gregarious, so I wanted to be an actress. I wanted fame. Of course, who doesn't want fortune? I grew up in Beverly Hills. This is something a lot of people there had. And then reality set in.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna, have to have a normal life, like these fantasies. This wasn't gonna happen, right? And my mother was a famous painter. She's alive, so I sort of sounded bad. But my mother had some fame and painted and is in the LA County Museum of Art in a permanent collection and a couple other things. And I couldn't really draw to save my life, so I thought, that's not going to work for me to be an artist. So what am I going to do? And my dad said he wouldn't pay for college unless I went to business school. So I went to business school, and I have to confess that it was the best of both worlds. I have my mother's sort of creativity and my father's business sense, and it ended up blending perfectly. But no, I think if you were to ask me, I'd say I wanted to do everything. And I have done a lot of stuff before. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And you and I have gotten to know each other over the last couple of years. And that's what made me think of that story, made me think of my friend. He's valedictorian. I mean, he was laser focused, knew exactly what he wanted to do. And we had our 40th high school reunion a couple of years ago. And you know what he's doing? Same damn thing.
That's crazy. You know what? It reminds me of one of my first boyfriends in college. I was 17 and he was at UCLA and he said he wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And we all kind of giggled like, how do you want to be a neurosurgeon? He's a friggin' neurosurgeon at Columbia. Like he is probably the premier neurosurgeon in the world. Like it's crazy to me that they have such an intense understanding of who they are and what they want to do.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And we're all kind of, it's like your mom's personality was drawing you in one direction. Your dad was drawing you in another direction, and you found that compromise. And I think those, that's what relationships do for us, our parental relationships. So not even just parental, really lots of people in our lives, coaches, mentors, teachers, whatever it might be. They kind of tweak our path. I remember wanting to be a coach, and my dad kind of more or less said, you can do better than that.
Hmm.
You can do better. I mean, it wasn't condescending, but you just don't settle for that. But as a kid, you don't know what that means, right? It doesn't, you
Right.
don't really get paid and it's long hours,
Right.
for most coaches. So I guess take us on this journey. You go to business school, and somewhere along the line, you start designing jewelry, and it hits in a big way. So
Yeah.
I guess I won't spoil the story. So I'll let you tell it.
Well, it's sort of interesting. I'm not really sure how it sort of began. I mean, I think I got really lucky because I always worked. My father had a theory. If you put on your pants in the morning, you go to work, you don't watch the clock, something good will happen. I mean, that like if I called my sister right now, that would be our little mantra. And I believe that, I suppose. And my mother was always like, work smart, figure out a better way to do that. So again, that yin and yang of my parents, and both of them contributed to that. I worked as a floral designer in college, my first year or so. And then I went and I never could find the jewelry that I wanted to accessorize my clothing with because I didn't have a ton of money of my own. So I would wear very monochromatic outfits. And I always felt that I could make the look different with a different accessory, but I couldn't find what I wanted. So I started beading jewelry, like a lot of women do it as a hobby. And I started that many years ago. I think I was 18, 19, maybe when I started. And then I finished business school and did all kinds of other things. And I met my boyfriend at the time in 1999 or 2000, whatever it was, I can't remember. And he had a little jewelry kiosk and it was crap. It's the truth, that jewelry was crap. And I met him and I thought, oh, he's awfully cute, but that jewelry sucks. Mm-hmm. And we started collaborating on jewelry for this cart of his. And one thing led to another, and my one-of-a-kind designs started selling for $300 or $400 a piece. And they were beaded. Like if it didn't work out, you could cut the little, the wire, poof, it fell apart. You rework it. You didn't have any loss. And that's kind of how it started. And then again, I found a rare gemstone, and that rare gemstone, which was Larimar, took us into something blowing up because nobody knew what the stone was. Nobody worked with it. And at first, I really didn't conceive of having such a big company. And we took that business from 0 to 15 million in 11 years unleveraged. I believe that's all accurate. Yeah. We had
what was the name? What was the name of the stone?
Larimar.
Larimar. Okay.
Larimar. Oh. It's only found in a half-mile square of one mountain in the Dominican Republic.
How'd you stumble on that? I mean,
there's a true story and a little bit of a fabricated story there. Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
Well, I'll give you the fabricated one because that's what everybody knows. But my ex had lived on a sailboat for years before he met me as a dive instructor, and had traveled around with his ex-wife. And when I met him, all he had really to his name, and this is the truth, was a rucksack and some little clamp-on lights that clamp onto, like a shelving unit. And so one day, he moved in and he put the rucksack in and the box in the closet. And one day I was cleaning out the closet because I needed more room for my shoes. I'm a shoe freak. Yeah. So I'm cleaning it out and I go through this box and there's all these cute pictures of him. Oh, he was so cute, so young. And look at him in this country and that island. And then I saw this flash of blue, right? And there was this ring, very bad setting, rudimentary. And I fell in love with it and asked him where this was from. Where did he get this? And his first comment was, what are you doing in my box? The nosy Latin girl in the box. So that's the fake story. Really, he and I went to a trade show, but it's very similar. I found this crazy, beautiful blue stone and nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew where it came from. They gave it to me at this trade show and said, there's only one. We've only got one here, take it. And so I took it, went around and asked everybody what it was, and nobody knew. So eventually I kept thinking about this stone. I had this, beautiful little pendant or whatever it was. And I asked at the right place. And somebody said, oh, that's Larimar. This is months later. Oh, it's Larimer. I said, what's that? And they said, I don't know where it comes from. So finally we found out it comes from the Dominican Republic. So we're like adventurers because he'd lived all over and said, I've been there, let's go. So we fly down there, sight unseen, fly into the capital, and about 4 hours outside of Santo Domingo is the mine site. So we rent a car to go there. It took us 6 hours. We got lost, I don't know, a bunch of times, and the rest is really history.
Interesting. Well, you know what I find interesting, Mara, is that, you know, before we hit record, just to let people know, I said we're going to talk about networking and how you use networking. And you're like, oh, geez, I have to think about it. I don't know that I did network. Well, you did. I mean, you got this stone and you're running around trying to figure it out. You know, there's more to it than, I think when you think of networking, we think of it to get business, but you really kind of pulled information together. Now, these are two separate boyfriends. I'm trying to keep track of all your boyfriends.
No, there's a million of them right now. Yeah, this is the one. So this boyfriend I lived with this man who, his name is Adrian, and I lived with Adrian 11 years. And that was the one who had the jewelry cart, and we found the stone together because we were on a buying spree for little findings, as you call them in the beading world. Okay. And that's when I found the stone. Going back to your networking thing, what occurs to me now is where I excelled in networking was with the miners. So I ran mining teams to excavate this gemstone, so that we would have top grade, and we worked with about 250 miners, 5 mining teams. So there was, you're right, a tremendous amount of networking, a tremendous amount of, you know, who do you know and who likes you? I mean, you could not get into those miners easily. That was a very challenging part of our business, was the mining operation. They were subsistence farmers before this stone had ever been discovered. And their idea of how to do business was they had this stone, they had to sell it to you for as much money as possible so they could live for the rest of the month. But that's not how business operates. Business is a long-term, you know, give and take, right? So they didn't care if they gouged you. Well, I wasn't going to get gouged. So it was really an interesting dynamic to teach them a little bit about how I do business and to learn a great deal about mining. And it became a really interesting collaboration. So they worked for me. I protected them. I took care of them. I bought them all of their equipment and everything they needed for these artisanal mines. And they pulled out the best stone for me. And it was a really special time in my life. And I had 2 villages, really. One big village full of people that knew me and would, you know, the kids would run down, Mara's here. And it was really just a great feeling that I contributed to the growth and prosperity of that village and those people, and still was able to have a successful and prestigious career. It was great. I feel like I had it all.
Are there a lot of kids running around named Mar-a-Lago?
No,
wonder.
No.
All right.
No.
Well, not that you had them, but people named them after you.
No.
Okay.
I don't think I was that beloved.
Okay, all right. I'm just curious. I don't know. You sound iconic in this village, which you probably were. So.
Well, I think they actually didn't call me by. I don't think many of them called me by my name. It was always La Doña. La Doña está acá. She's here. You know, La Doña.
Okay.
So I don't.
Okay.
I don't think so. No, I would say no.
Okay. So you've got this business going and you don't own it now. So
I separated from my ex and I exited out a hiatus out, I'll call it, or what have you. And he still has it. It's funny because there's almost zero recollection of me and what contribution I made. There's one mention of Mara, like that the name of the company, actually there's a real person that also is behind. But it is what it is. That's how life is. And now I'm a business strategist that helps companies to experience exponential growth and set themselves up for scaling and success. And I also now am really involved in talking about some women's issues. It's really more not women's issues. It's about maturing, coming to an understanding of who we are. So Hot Flashes and Stilettos is the podcast that's going to be launching, and the book. And that talks about my life, and it talks about my beliefs, which is that everything that happens to us, the good, the bad, and the ugly, make us who we are today, and that person is just right. Sort of like Goldilocks.
Yeah.
So
what lessons do you bring forward to your current clients from the jewelry, the mining business, that whole 11-year adventure, growing it to $15 million? It's amazing.
You know, that's a really interesting question. I think some of the things I bring relate to what I believe was my success and what I believe made us successful. And I'm always going to say us, because Adrian and I were two sides of the same coin. It wasn't just me, and I don't believe it will ever be just him. But I think what made us successful is we didn't operate out of fear. So you don't spend money where you don't need to, because we bootstrapped it. We didn't get any investment. We weren't leveraged really at all. But we made smart decisions because we didn't operate out of fear. We didn't make decisions out of fear, but we were discerning, and we were nimble. So we always stayed nimble, and we didn't operate out of fear. So if we made a bad decision, and there were, we pivoted quickly and efficiently. We always were like, okay, that's not working. Bad decision. Move quick. Don't belabor that, and don't decide to do things and hold things back or whatever because you're afraid. So
yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Bootstrapping it's almost like it's frowned upon. Like and maybe that's just kind of the banking world asserting its dominance, that, hey, you want to make it, you need to raise capital. Doing what I do, and I started a law practice. It was December 31st, 1994. I'm getting ready. I've left my job. I'm getting ready to outfit an office at home, looking at a desk at Office Max. I'm like, you know what? There's a $29 6-foot table here. I'll just buy that for now.
Right.
And when I arrive in a couple of years, I'll get that desk. I still have that damn table. I still use the table. I bought more of them, right? I've never bought the desk because I don't need a desk.
Right. What's funny about that, Frank, is that our first desk was a fold up, one of those like fold up picnic, 6-foot picnic tables. That was our first desk. And that's what we worked from. And, we didn't hesitate. We didn't think twice. We didn't have a lot of money. Frankly, I think the initial investment overall was, I had a small savings account of a couple $1,000, maybe it was $5,000. And that's really how we started. And that was it. That plus my father's girlfriend at the time gave me access to her American Express gold card.
Oh, wow.
She got us it was a platinum card, whatever it was. She gave me a card with my name on it, but it's her account and I just had to pay it. And without her doing that, and Adrian's parents being very supportive and, just wonderful people, I don't, our best efforts might have failed, but they believed in us enough to do those few things for us. So.
Well, see, there you go again, tapping into your network. You said you don't think you do, but you've just done a ton of it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know. I don't think of things under in the same terms, and I love that you show it to me.
Well, I think the reality is for somebody to take something from nothing to something, from nothing to 15 million. Well, certainly bootstrapping it. Well, bootstrapping it would have to take other people. Even if you went to try and go get a bank loan without somebody co-signing, you wouldn't have been able to.
Right. That's true.
So we just, it's always involved.
I never called it bootstrapping as we were coming up. By the way, I always called it robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Okay.
Because you're and so in some ways it is networking. You're asking someone to hold off so that you can, do something else. You're like, can I pay you in 2 weeks, or can I delay paying you so that I can do this? So realistically, along the way, we had a lot of supporters, and it was all through networking that we were able to do that, because we always engaged other people in our in our business, and said, this is what we're going to do. This is why I can't pay you, or this is why I need to delay. I'm expecting a check. Can you work with me? And everyone really participated in that. So I see the success as being everyone having faith in us.
When you guys ultimately sold it, how did that all come down? Or was it just, hey, we're splitting, we need to find somebody to buy it? Or
I sold it to him. He's still owns. So I exited, and that's the only, and I'm really clear about it. To me, that's the only, I don't believe in regrets. I think everything you regret is just a waste of time to do that.
Sure.
But if I were to have a regret, selling it to him and not maintaining it or maintaining certain things. For instance, I'm always very open about the fact that I did not get royalties for my designs from my ex. Bad decision.
Yeah.
So, I talk pretty openly about the things that I didn't do well, that I didn't do right. I would not do that again. So he has the company, he has all the royalties and everything from me that I don't get paid for. So that was, just a personal, almost like a divorce. I mean, we were never married, but it was like a divorce. So that was a rough time, and I wanted to get through it quickly. So I didn't make some of the best decisions for myself. I think a lot of people can, I say particularly women, can relate to that. And he's doing very well, I think, and I wish him well. I have no bad feelings. I have no one to blame for those decisions but myself. And that's also part of my philosophy, which is, if you regret, you're looking back and you're not looking forward to your future. I've made millions of dollars in my life. I will make millions of dollars again. So I'm not worried about that. And to regret that means it negates the person I am today.
Yeah.
And the person today has learned so much from that I can give that to my friends and my clients. And I make my living on some of the mistakes that I've made, to be fair.
Well, and you have the name. I realize there's jewelry out there by your name, but no, but when I talk to people about you and they're familiar with the jewelry, I mean, there's a certain cachet to your name.
Yeah.
And I think that will serve you well as you start to build out your coaching practice, and getting people on your podcast. So it's not nothing.
Well, and I did, you're right. I networked and worked hard to build a reputation. And that is just the one thing that people can't pay you for. Right. So,
right.
That's what you wholly own.
Yeah.
And I believe that. Yeah.
Well, let's shift gears as we kind of wrap up here. You got the podcast, Hot Flashes and Stilettos,
right.
And you're, building out this coaching practice. What would be some good referrals, good opportunities, good introductions for you, types of guests you're looking for, things like that?
Well, that's a great question. I really, my favorite are startups, people who are in some ways bootstrapping it, but have a little bit of cash flow, because obviously they got to pay me.
Right.
At the same time, I'm really comfortable with that, laying the foundation, creating those operational infrastructure kinds of things, being able to set yourself up for success and scaling. So that kind of person, somebody who actually is at a little bit of a loss at one point, can, just call me and say, I do free consultations too. So somebody who's just like, I got a quick question. Bring it. Let's let me help you. I had so much support and love in my past, and I still do, that, I like paying it forward as best I can. I think if I were to say what doesn't work for me, I consulted with Tiffany & Company for a couple of years, and I think really big and non-nimble or behemoth-y. Like if people aren't willing to kind of look at things from a different perspective and think outside the proverbial box, that doesn't work for me. So if somebody wants to kind of like, let's give this a shot, let's give it a try, let's go this way, and it's open, I'm open to working with those people.
Sounds good. Types of guests on your podcasts?
I like anybody who is changing the way people think. So men, women who are comfortable with who they are and are changing the way the world works and thinks, that's comfort for me. People who have had interesting lives, no matter what they do, or people who have are making and shaking things up. I think those are great situations for me with my podcast. And then I like to speak. I'm doing kind of trying to do a speaking tour about entrepreneurship and what it takes to have grit in today's market. So.
Well, again, you've got that name and you're living in Vegas. I think you're probably, I just think you're well situated. I mean, it's not like you're Betty Jones in Gary, Indiana, right? I mean, you're Mar-a-Lago in Vegas, the capital of conferences and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
You know.
I am well positioned, as we say.
Yeah. You're an Uber right away. You know, that's your travel cost. Just give me an Uber to the hotel, wherever this thing's at. And I'm good.
I'm there. I'm good. Yeah.
Best way to get a hold of you.
I'm easy. I'm through LinkedIn is real easy. It's Mar-a-Lago. And then people can just write to Mar-a-Lago. Well, it's actually mara@maralago.me. So I get emails there, or maralago@gmail.com. Like I'm really pretty easy at Mar-a-Lago. And if they spell it right, I'm easy to find.
Well, I'll put your LinkedIn profile in the show notes so people will be able to find that. I appreciate your time today. I learned a lot. I think you learned a lot about yourself.
I did, which is, I want to thank you for that. It doesn't happen too often that I go, wow, I did network. Yes, I did.
Yeah. You're pretty awesome. I want to say that.
I appreciate you so much, Frank. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.